These are actual stories told by teachers. Hope you enjoy them. First one. I work in an old gym building, and the bottom floor is a series of tunnel-like hallways and locker rooms that students have used for generations. After going over female anatomy in our reproductive health class, I asked a series of review questions, one being, what is the site of fertilization? A young girl raised her hand, and I pointed to her, proud that someone remembered the answer so quickly. She confidently looked at me and said, site of fertilization? Basement of the old gym. That's where my mom said she was. You really have to be careful how you say certain words. I once had a student who could be an absolute terror in class when she wanted to be. She could also be quite pleasant. We all know people like that, right? Her theater arts teacher complimented her good behavior one day by saying, I really enjoy teaching you when you're in a pleasant mood. Some days you can just be a horror. The next day, the teacher was pulled aside by the principal and told that she needs to watch her language around students. When she questioned what he meant, he replied, Susie said you called her a whore yesterday. I was teaching a course on parenting, and we were on the unit about development in the womb. I had detention in my room that afternoon and had a life-size rubber replica of a woman's uterus with detachable fetus on the table. There was a student who would not settle down, so I kindly told him he needed to leave. He stole the 9-month replica uterus and ran down the hall wearing it on his head like a hat. I wonder why he was in detention. I immediately called my principal and told him someone just stole my uterus and I need it back. Here we are again. You gotta be careful how you say words. One time as I was changing modes in the classroom, there was a little misunderstanding. As the students were putting away one project and pulling a worksheet out, I said, we'll have more on that later. The next day I was called into the principal's office, where one of the students and her mother stood very upset. The principal asked me, did you call your students a moron yesterday? A first grader asked his teacher, how do you spell toad? We had just read a story about a toad, I said, then helped him spell it out. Toad. Satisfied, he finished writing the story he'd begun, then he read it aloud. I told my mama I wanted a dog for my birthday. After a day of listening to my 8th graders exchange gossip, I decided to quote Mark Twain to them. It is better to keep your mouth closed and let people think you're a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. After considering my words, one of my students asked, so what does it mean to remove all doubt? During my 8th grade sex education class, no one could answer the question, what happens to a young woman during puberty? So I rephrased it. What happens to young women as they mature? One student answered, they start to carry a purse. Teacher, what is an evangelist? Student, someone who plays the evangelo. Teacher, why can't freshwater fish live in salt water? Student, the salt would give them high blood pressure. Teacher, Myra went to the library at 5:15 and left at 6:45. How long did Myra stay at the library? Student, not long. Teacher, what do we call a group of stars that make an imaginary picture in the sky? Student, a consternation. Teacher, list up to 5 good facts about Abraham Lincoln. Student, after the war ended, Lincoln took his wife to a show. Walking through the hallways at our middle school, I saw a new substitute teacher standing outside his classroom with his forehead against a locker. I heard him mutter, how did you get yourself into this? Knowing he was assigned to a difficult class, I tried to offer moral support. Are you okay? Can I help? He lifted his head and replied, "I'll be fine as soon as I can get this kid out of this locker." During the Christmas holiday classroom party, a boy comes up to me with a gift bag, which is obviously reused, and says, "Here, teacher, my mom got this present and she didn't want it, so she called everybody in our family and they didn't want it either. So she said just bring it to school and give it to you." I love how kids tell on their parents if they only knew. I sure hoped you enjoyed this edition of Kids Stories. And come back to see us sometime, okay? Remember, Tracy tries and she loves you.